What if I told you that every woman, no matter how beautiful, independent, or confident, has soft spots she desperately tries to hide? Not because she's fake, but because she's human. And more importantly, because femininity comes with its own hidden fragilities. The world tells men to chase, to please, to submit in the name of understanding her. But you're not here to please. You're here to perceive, to see beyond what she says, and hear what her soul cannot admit. Most men never learn this. They walk on eggshells, confuse emotions with truth, try to earn her love when what she really wants is a man who sees through her confusion without being shaken by it. Right now, you're at a turning point. You can stay blind to her emotional reality or awaken to the deeper rules that shape her behavior. This video is your invitation to clarity, to grounded power, to becoming the kind of man she can't control, but can't stop thinking about. So before we begin, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I lead with presence, not permission. Let's uncover the 8 truths she'll never speak, but always live by. She says she's not the clingy type. She tells you she's independent, self-sufficient, not here to play games. And maybe you believe her. Maybe you even admire that fire in her voice. But wait, watch. There's a moment, always a moment, when the mask slips, when she sends a message and watches the screen longer than she admits, when she drops a subtle hint hoping you'll catch it, when she mentions something emotional and waits to see if you'll reach in. You see beneath her armor she wants to be pursued, not just physically, emotionally. She wants you to remember what makes her anxious, to follow the trail of breadcrumbs she leaves in conversation, to notice when her smile isn't real. Because while the world chases her body, she secretly aches for a man who chases her mind, her emotions, her shadows. Not to fix her, but to find her. And yet she won't say this out loud, because the last time she opened that door, someone walked in only to leave too quickly. So now she builds walls with witty comebacks and sarcastic smiles, hoping one day someone will knock with patience instead of a hammer. But here's the thing most men miss. She doesn't need your constant praise. She doesn't want to be smothered. She just wants you to notice what others ignore. The slight shift in her tone, the way she brings up something from childhood and then quickly changes the subject, the pause before she says, "It's fine." That's where she's hiding. Not behind drama, but behind her own silence. And if you can reach that place without force, if you can approach with presence instead of pressure, you'll unlock a version of her no one else has touched. Epictetus wrote, "We have the power to hold no opinion about a thing and not be upset." But she's waiting for a man who holds the right opinions, formed not from impulse, but from observation. The Stoic man doesn't chase her body when it's easy. He pursues her depth when it's hidden. He learns to recognize when her strength is a disguise for a heart that's tired of fighting alone. And when she sees that you see her, not just the curated version, but the whole, messy, beautiful, anxious, guarded her, she won't run. She'll lean in. Because for the first time, someone showed up not to win her, but to understand her. And that's a pursuit she'll never forget. You see her, the way she walks into the room and heads turn. She knows the power she holds, the glances, the comments, the messages flooding her inbox. It would be easy to think she's full of herself, but if you looked closer, you'd see something else. She's not addicted to attention. She's addicted to desire, because desire makes her feel valuable, wanted, chosen, if only for a moment. Love is slower. It takes time. It doesn't always come with fireworks or fire. Desire is instant. It's primal. It tells her she matters right now in this dress, under this light, at this angle. And in a world that forgets women the moment they stop being hot, desire feels like currency, like survival, so she invests in it. The perfect photo, the flirtatious comment, the effortless, "I'm not trying" pose that took 47 minutes to create. Because every stare, every compliment is a temporary reminder, I'm still enough. But here's what she won't say out loud. What maybe she can't even admit to herself: she's exhausted. Exhausted from being desired but not kept. Worshipped for her body but ignored for her mind. Celebrated in the beginning but forgotten in the quiet middle. She craves love, deep, quiet, boring love, but it terrifies her. Because desire has rules she understands: be pretty, be wanted, stay wanted. But love doesn't need her to perform. Love sees her mess. Love stays when the show ends. And that's terrifying, because if someone sees her without the mask, will they still want her? This is where you enter. The Stoic man doesn't feed the addiction. He doesn't chase the image. He honors the essence. You see her in sweatpants with no makeup when she's raw and unsure, and you say, I don't need you to be desired. I just want you to be real. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And when a woman is constantly thinking about how to stay wanted, her soul becomes tinted with fear. But you bring peace. You make her feel adored, not because she's flawless, but because she's her. When she realizes she can be fully seen without needing to pose, when she learns that your gaze doesn't fade after the first impression, she begins to exhale. And desire, it becomes something else, not a mask, but a choice. She doesn't have to chase it anymore, because the man in front of her sees what no spotlight ever could. She curates, she edits, she plans her words, angles and timing like a strategist preparing for battle. Even when she's being spontaneous, it's calculated. That post, that silence, that effortless story about her day, there's intention behind it, because every piece of her public self has to send a message: I've got it together. You may think she's obsessed with appearances, but it's deeper than that. She's obsessed with perception, because she's been taught that one crack in her image can be used against her. That softness will be mistaken for weakness. That vulnerability is dangerous unless it's aesthetic. So she controls the narrative. Not to impress you, to protect herself, because once she showed too much. She cried too soon, revealed her scars too early, trusted someone who swore he loved the real her until he didn't. Now she filters not just her photos, but her personality. She adjusts to your tone mirrors. Your pace hides the parts that might make you flinch. Not because she wants to lie, but because she fears rejection more than isolation. And ironically, she ends up lonely anyway. Surrounded by people but untouched. Admired but unknown. That's where the Stoic man changes everything. You don't fall for the show. You sense the edge in her laughter. Watch the way she dodges certain topics. See the moments where her face tightens just a little and you don't let it slide. You ask, what are you really feeling right now? And you wait. Not to fix her, to invite her out of the costume. Because your strength doesn't need her to be perfect. Your masculinity doesn't collapse just because she's messy. Your identity isn't threatened by her truth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." And when you live that, she begins to relax. Not all at once, but slowly. She shows you the picture. She didn't post the story. She's never told the version of herself that doesn't know how to be liked, only how to be real. And in your stillness, she finds her freedom. Because the truth is, she's tired of being an image. She's tired of managing your impression of her. She wants to be the one thing no filter can replicate, loved without performance. When you give her space to drop the act, you don't lose the version you thought you wanted. You gain the one she was too afraid to show anyone else. And that version, that's the one who can love you with no filter at all. She doesn't always say it. She may never say it. But it lives under her skin like a whisper. He's going to find someone younger, someone prettier, someone with fewer emotional needs. Even the most confident woman, even the one who walks with elegance, and speaks with fire feels it. That quiet fear, am I enough to keep his attention when the novelty fades? It's not jealousy. It's not insecurity in the shallow sense. It's a wound, a product of a world that constantly reminds her that women are valued for how new they seem, not how deep they love. And in that world, no woman ever really feels safe, because attention is cheap. And men who once said, "You're the only one," scroll endlessly as if each swipe is a better version of what they already have. So she watches. She watches how your eyes move when someone beautiful passes. She watches how you talk about other women, even casually. She pretends it doesn't matter. She even jokes. But every time you admire someone else too loudly, you echo an old pain, one that says you will eventually be outgrown. Here's where the Stoic man stands apart. You don't reassure her with flattery. You anchor her with devotion. You admire beauty, yes, but you worship substance. You let your consistency say what your compliments can't. I'm not here for what fades. I'm here for what few ever take time to see. You notice her intelligence, the way she solves a problem, the care she puts into small things. And you name it, out loud, not to calm her fears, but to honor her soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is beautiful in this world is not eternal, but that which is aligned with nature and reason is everlasting." You understand this. You don't chase novelty, you build depth. You invest in the kind of connection that becomes more powerful, more intimate, and more rare with time. And when she sees that, her fear begins to fade. Because you're not just another man with eyes that wander. You're a man whose vision has roots. You see her, still, even now, even when she's not trying, even when she's in her quietest form, and in a world that trains her to expect replacement. You become her reason to believe in permanence again. Not because you swore it, but because you lived it. She feels it long before it's spoken, before your messages get shorter, before your voice loses its warmth, before your eyes stop lingering when you look at her. She feels it in your pauses, in your distracted tone, in the way your energy fades from the space, even if your body is still there. Most men think women overreact, that they're too sensitive, that they're reading too much into things. But what you don't see is how attuned she is to emotional current. She senses your shift the way a deer senses wind, hyper-aware, alert, instinctive. Because emotional presence is her oxygen, and when it's pulled away, she doesn't just notice, she panics. Not on the outside, not always. Sometimes she just goes quiet, stops asking questions, starts building her own emotional exit before yours is complete. It's not manipulation, it's defense. Because somewhere along the way, she learned this painful lesson. When a man starts drifting emotionally, he's already halfway gone. And no matter how calm your words are, if your spirit pulls back, she feels the distance like a door slowly closing. The Stoic man doesn't abandon emotionally. He doesn't punish with silence. He doesn't retreat to test her. He remains present, not because it's easy, but because it's a discipline. When life gets heavy, he doesn't shut her out, he brings her in. He doesn't make her prove her worth for reconnection. He names the storm. He says, "I've been distant, not because of you, but because I'm processing, and I want you to know that." That one sentence, it can dismantle the wall she's building. Because most men go cold expecting her to decode the reason, but you give her the map. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When your world shakes, she doesn't need you to be invincible. She needs you to stay emotionally reachable. Because the moment you disconnect without clarity, her mind fills in the blanks, and those blanks always hurt more than the truth. So stay with her. Even if you're silent, let her know you're still there. Because a woman who loves deeply isn't afraid of storms. She's afraid of being shut out of the shelter. You see her carry everything: responsibility, expectations, her past, your silence with an elegance that almost looks effortless. She makes decisions, solves problems, stays composed in moments that would break most men. But if you think that's all she is, you've missed the most sacred part of her. Because behind her strength is a softness begging for a safe place to breathe. Not weakness, not helplessness. Feminine surrender, not to be dominated, but to finally be seen without armor. She's tired. Tired of pretending she doesn't want to lean on someone. Tired of always being the strong one. Tired of hearing you've got this when all she wants is someone to whisper you don't have to. But here's the trap, she won't say it. She won't ask you to lead, to step in, to carry her for a while. Because the last time she softened, she was dropped, laughed at, taken for granted. So now she hides her softness in logic, in independence, in low expectations. Until a man shows up who isn't threatened by her power and isn't intimidated by her emotions. A man who can hold both without needing to fix or flee. That's you. The Stoic man recognizes her duality. He sees the lioness and the little girl inside her, and he doesn't worship one while rejecting the other. He invites both. He says, "You don't have to be strong here, not with me." Not because he thinks she's fragile, but because he knows the strongest people deserve moments of weightlessness, too. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. And the good man, the rare man, is the one who creates the kind of safety that doesn't require words. When she sees you hold your ground without needing her to shrink, when you lead with calm, not control, she lets the softness come out. Tentatively at first, in small gestures, quiet moments, unguarded tears. And you hold it. You don't analyze it. You don't rush it. You hold it like sacred ground. Because you know a woman who can finally rest in the presence of a grounded man will bloom in ways she's never allowed herself to before. And that bloom, that's not just emotional intimacy, that's bonding at the soul level. She won't always tell you what she needs to hear, but she's always listening. To the space between your compliments, to the tone in your voice, to the attention you give or don't. Because for her, love is not just what you say, it's what you don't say and still mean. She doesn't want to ask, "Do you still want me? Do you think I'm beautiful? Am I enough?" Because asking feels like begging. And begging is a wound she promised herself never to reopen. So instead, she waits, quietly, watching your patterns, measuring your energy, hoping your presence will say what your mouth won't. You might think she's needy, but this isn't about insecurity, it's about safety. She needs to feel chosen, even when she's not performing, especially then. The longer you go without affirming her soul, the more she wonders if you still see her. Not just her body, not just her utility, but the intricate emotional world she carries behind her smile. The Stoic man doesn't wait for a crisis to affirm the woman he loves. He speaks in consistency, not just poetry. He knows that unspoken needs are the seeds of silent resentment. So he affirms with his presence, with his undistracted attention, with the way he chooses her again and again without being prompted. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. You want to be a man who makes her feel safe. Then let your energy speak before she has to ask. Let your actions whisper what her heart is starving to hear. You're still the one. You don't have to try so hard today. I see how much you're holding, and I honor it." That's the kind of affirmation she'll never forget, the kind that arrives not when she's wearing her best dress, but when she's in her most ordinary moment. You affirm her when she's tired, when she's not shining, when she's doubting herself. And in those moments, your words don't just soothe, they anchor. Because when a woman stops needing to ask for reassurance and starts trusting it will come unprovoked, she finally relaxes into the one thing she's been craving: emotional rest. And a woman, at rest, she opens, she trusts, she loves in ways that transform not only herself, but you too. She doesn't always know she's doing it, but suddenly the energy shifts. She's colder, sharper, more distant, then warmer again. One day she pulls you close. The next, she seems to push you away. Not dramatically, just enough to make you question things, and you wonder what changed. What did I do wrong? But the truth is, this isn't about punishment. It's about testing your emotional frame, not because she wants to play games, but because she wants to know, can you hold your ground when she loses hers? Because life has taught her something brutal most men fold. They chase when they feel rejected. They crumble when she pulls back. They get reactive, emotional, insecure, so she tests. She doesn't do it to destroy. She does it to feel safe, to know that when things get messy, when she's anxious, uncertain, or afraid, she's with a man who doesn't unravel just because she does. She wants to know that your peace isn't performative, that it doesn't evaporate the moment she storms. This is where most men fail. They get angry, accuse, retreat into silence, or overcompensate with neediness. But the Stoic man, he does something else. He stays still, centered. He doesn't react to her storm. He anchors it. He says, I see something shifting. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to understand. He gives her the one thing her tests are always searching for: emotional leadership. Not dominance, not control, but presence under pressure. Because the woman who tests you emotionally isn't trying to make you fail. She's praying you won't. She's hoping that when her chaos rises, you won't match it, you'll ground it. That's the man she'll trust. That's the man she'll follow. That's the man she'll stop testing. Because once she sees that you don't flinch, that you don't need her approval to stay stable, she lets go of the game. And in its place, something deeper begins: respect. The respect that only comes when a woman sees that your masculinity isn't tied to her moods. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." You embody that truth, and she feels it. In how you respond, in how you breathe, in how you don't need to win, you simply don't lose yourself. In a world where most men are reactive, you become rare, not because you dominate her emotions, but because you refuse to be dominated by yours. That is the quiet power of the Stoic man, and that is the power she'll never want to lose. If you've listened this far, you're not here for tricks, you're here for truth. And the truth is, most men live their lives blind, not because they can't see, but because they never learned how to look. But you're different. You came here not just to understand women, but to understand yourself through how you respond, how you hold space, how you lead without controlling. These 8 weaknesses aren't flaws. They're doorways. Doorways into trust, into deeper emotional intimacy, into a kind of connection that most men never even taste because they're too busy chasing power instead of practicing presence. You now see what most ignore. You now carry the burden of awareness and the responsibility that comes with it. But that's what makes you dangerous. Not your dominance, not your seduction, but your inner gravity, your ability to see a storm coming and still stay grounded. So where do we go from here? The next chapter is even more dangerous and even more necessary. Because once you learn how to read women, you must also learn how to respond to their hidden tests without losing your emotional center. In the next video, we'll go deeper into 5 subtle tests women use to measure your masculinity and how a Stoic man passes without playing along. If this resonated with you, you already know what to do. Don't follow out of impulse. Follow because something in you is shifting quietly, powerfully, without noise. Because you're not just here to understand women. You're here to become the kind of man who no longer needs validation from anyone to stand tall in his truth. Until next time, observe deeper, speak with intention, and walk like a man who's already seen the game and chosen not to play it.